Nigel Owens has sent a very strong and clear warning to World Rugby.
Dive like that again and come back here in 2 weeks and play. Not today. Watch it.
Now, as many of you know by now, a couple of rules that have changed by World Rugby that will be implemented by the 1st of July is the banning of the croc roll, the change of the offside kicking rule, and the most controversial change has been the removal of the scrum option from a free kick. Now, I have made a couple of videos on this topic. I promise you this will be the last one, but Nigel Owens has come out and basically given his opinion on what he thinks of this new ruling, and it's not a pretty sight if you are World Rugby. Before we jump into that, please make sure you smash that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Leave this video a like, and as always, drop your opinions down in the comments. Now, just for a little bit more background before we jump into what Nigel Owens has said, we basically on this channel have said that we don't agree with this new changing of rule because it depowers the scrum option. Weaker teams can just give away a simple free kick at a scrum and then not have to scrum against the opponents, which is a big advantage and they could game the system a little bit. Yes, I do understand that they can only give a certain amount of free kicks away, probably 2 or 3 before it is a long arm penalty, but 2 to 3 scrums can make the difference. We saw, for example, when the Springboks played France in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, what difference just one scrum makes when Damian Willemse called it in the 22. So if a team doesn't have to scrum against the Springboks, let's say for 2 or 3 scrums in a game, they will definitely take that because they'll be able to reset their defensive lines, their forwards won't be as tired, and they won't have to concede penalties against the likes of a Springbok scrum. So let's break down exactly what Nigel Owens said. The first thing he said is it's likely to create further problems. I fear that introducing this law is simply papering over the cracks of the game's issues and is more likely to create further problems than solve the existing ones. Now, obviously, Nigel Owens, one of the best referees to ever ref the game of rugby, starting off, doesn't like it, can't see how it's going to help the game of rugby. And as we dive further into this, you're really going to get to understand his points of view, and his thoughts are not very positive. He goes on to say, we must always remember that rugby has always been a very unique sport because it is a sport for all shapes and sizes. That is one of the main attractions. People play the game because there's a place for them in it. As soon as you take away an option from a free kick and take away the scrum, then suddenly those front rows aren't as impactful in a game of rugby. And I do think if the game continues to trend towards this direction of not having scrums, then you're going to see the extinction of the props, of the hookers. Why not just put in a couple of flankers in that front row? You don't have to scrum as often, and you've got a lot more agile forwards on the field. That could improve a side's game plan. You've got a lot more agile guys. They're faster. They can get around the park a lot quicker. So World Rugby do need to make sure that they are still catering to all shapes and sizes. I mean, a scrum off, smallest player on the field, one of the most impactful players on the field. And props, yes, their main job is to scrum and clean at rucks. So if you take that away, then all of a sudden props start to look a whole lot different come 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. He goes on to say, we simply have to ensure that the scrum remains an integral part of the game. If it's not, then we're going to lose players and damage the game itself. Exactly what I just said. If you look at a game like Rugby League and you look at a game like Rugby Union, obviously Rugby League doesn't have any scrums or lineouts, so all of the players do look like an inside center or outside center. So World Rugby, again, just need to be very careful with the rules they're changing. And yes, I get that they want to increase the pace of the game. Yes, they want to make it more attractive to a wider audience, but at what cost? World Rugby argue that reducing the number of scrums will open up attacking opportunities, but Nigel Owens disagrees very much, and he makes a very good point here. When you have a scrum set up, you have 16 players bound in the scrum. So what you have behind you is space. It's important to be able to keep those 16 players in the scrum for as long as you can, because when the ball comes out, there's space for them to attack, he wrote. So World Rugby's whole reason for changing this rule is to make rugby more running, more attacking, not so many dead spots in a game. And Nigel Owens is basically saying, but when there is a scrum, there's the most condensed amount of players on the field at any point in the game, meaning that there's more space out wide than any other point in the game. If a team comes into a scrum and they give away a free kick, then all of a sudden there's 15 players defending. Where if it's a set piece, there's 8 on 8, then all of a sudden there's 16 players here, and the back line of 7 players have a lot more space to work with. So changing that rule is going to cramp the field a whole lot more. We see it in rugby league so much, is that they just crash ball, and that's exactly what Nigel Owens is about to say. If we don't have those players in the scrum, we're just going to have continuous pick and go ball. Nigel Owens also believes that the change in this rule is going to result in more kicking, because now all of a sudden teams can't get possession and territory or penalties from a scrum. So there's going to be a lot more kicking. If it's a free kick and you can't take a scrum, then they're going to have to up and under. And teams with weaker scrums will not want to scrum. The set piece offers so much to so many different sides in so many different ways, because it provides a set piece for a strike move. Like we've covered, there's so much space out wide when there's a scrum, and as soon as you don't have that scrum, it kind of just falls apart a bit. Nigel Owens is warning World Rugby that if they change this rule and they continue to move towards a faster paced game without a scrum, then the game is going to start looking a whole lot different. More kicks, more pick and goes. If we're not careful, he says, within a couple of years, we will be like rugby league, with even less space on the field than what we have now. Imagine you're a weak scrummaging side and a scrum is awarded. With this new law, you're just going to give a free kick away by making a deliberate error, as the stronger opposition won't be able to take the scrum where they have the advantage. This is what we've been saying in all of these videos about the scrum law, is that there is a little bit of a loophole. Yes, I know that you can only give, I think it's 3 free kicks away at a scrum, different free kicks, until a long arm penalty is awarded. But like we covered in the beginning, one scrum makes all the difference in an international game where only 1 point is decided if you go to the semis or finals or win the Rugby World Cup. He then goes on to say that box kicking will become more popular because all of a sudden you've got a brick wall in front of you all the time, and teams don't just want to crash. They want to play that territory game, which is where you normally get it from a scrum penalty. It also changed the momentum of the game. If you think about when you're watching the Springboks, and the Springboks absolutely decimate France, England, and Ireland in the scrum, it's almost like a lift, a boost. And Nigel Owens says that some of the biggest roars he's ever heard in a stadium while he's been refereeing is when one side dominates another side in a scrum. I think we have to keep remembering that rugby is a physical game. It's a big man type of game. And at the end of the day, that's what people want to see. They want to see big collisions. They want to see a very, very physical side. And by taking the scrum ruling away, by taking it away from a free kick option, it doesn't do that. Yes, World Rugby want more running rugby. Yes, they want more space, but I just don't think this is the way to do it. Nigel Owens then concludes by saying, I could be proved wrong, but I'd be very, very surprised if this new law brought any extra positives to the game. I can just see it increasing negativity and rewarding poor scrummaging, and if we're not careful, the scrum will be gone for good. So some very powerful words there by Nigel Owens, and I think as fans, we do need to somehow put our foot down and make content like this and speak out to World Rugby. They need to know what we're thinking. And for me, as soon as I heard that this was potentially going to be a rule change, I didn't like it at all, because you cannot be rewarding a weakened scrum with an opportunity or a way out of not scrummaging. It just doesn't make sense in my brain, and I'd much prefer to watch rugby union, and I've come up with some solutions for World Rugby. Instead of taking it away on a free kick option, why not rather just start the clock once the ball is put into the scrum? Then you're going to have so much time. You're not going to have waste time on reset scrums or minutes like that. Just start the clock as soon as the ball's put in. Stop the clock while they're getting set for the scrum, and that way you're going to have more time for attacking, running rugby, and you're going to be able to build a bigger audience. But if I have one message to World Rugby, it is don't try and change the game that we love. If we wanted to watch rugby league, we would go and watch rugby league. There's a reason why rugby union is far more popular than rugby league. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Nigel Owens definitely didn't hold back, and I do think we need to hold World Rugby accountable. Obviously, we're going to see how this rule is going to pan out in the next couple of months. I'm especially interested to see how it affects the Ireland and South Africa Test series. But until then, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave your opinions down in the comments. Make sure you leave this video a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.